Hey everybody, Amelia here. Today I am going to show you a tutorial for how to create the puff stitch. Now I'm holding it like this because this entire piece that I'm holding is the Jasmine Stitch, and so is this one. So the Jasmine Stitch is just a lot of puff stitches worked in a certain combination. I'm going to do a separate tutorial for those, but the puff stitch is simply a line of these puffs that you can see right here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. This video is going to focus on how to do these properly just in a single line and not focusing on doing this entire combination for the Jasmine Stitch altogether. Now these puffs look pretty simple. They look like just a group of loops of yarn, but there are actually a few steps that are very specific for especially ending the puff stitches that really tripped me up when I was learning them, and that took some practice. So I'm going to show you those in the video and show you again just how to do a line of these puff stitches. And while you can certainly use them for other things, be sure to look into my tutorial for the Jasmine Stitch if you're interested in doing that. Let's get started. Alright, so here I have my medium weight yarn, and I'll be using a H hook or a 5mm hook for this demonstration. And I'm going to start by making a slip knot. And just to start your very first puff, you need to do 2 chain stitches. 1, 2. Now with the loop that you have on your hook, you're going to pull out and create the first longer loop of your puff. This doesn't have to be a specific length. About this long is good. The main thing that you want to do with these loops is keep them consistent. Keep them consistent for making the puff, and also it's usually good to keep each of your puffs consistent. So once you settle on a length, you're going to want to keep doing that length as best as you can. Now I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to put my hook into the first chain that we created, 2 chains away from the hook, go through, yarn over, and bring through a loop, which creates 3 on our hook. We're going to do that sequence again 2 more times. Yarn over, put it through, bring up a loop, 1 more time, yarn over, bring it through, bring up a loop. So we did that little set of steps 3 times total, and we end up with 7 loops total on our hook. 3, 6, 7. All right, now this is where we have a few small steps or small details of what we're doing that make a big difference. We start by yarning over, and this yarn over we have to keep separate from the rest, so we put a finger through to hold it. Now this loop gets pulled under all of the others, but we keep this separate. This is important for how the puff is going to end up looking. Okay, but once we have all of these threaded onto this loop, we take our hook and we put it through this space that we created by holding it. And then obviously doing that, I dropped it. You don't have to hold it anymore once you get it on your hook. Now we yarn over, and this comes through both of these. I take that back. That was a mistake. Glad I didn't go any further with that. Back up really quick. We have the space that we kept separate. We yarn over and pull it through, and then separately we do another yarn over and bring it through these 2. Okay? I will do that again with our next puff, but those are 2 separate steps. You do not try to do them all in one like I did a minute ago. If you do, your puff ends up not looking quite the same, and this space right here is not as strong and distinct. So it's important to do them both the same. At this point, we have closed up our puff, but we have these 2 loops sliding on our yarn here. The very last part we need to do is yarn over and chain 1. And we are completely done. Okay? So I'm going to do that 1 more time, hopefully without slipping up on that last bit, and you'll get to see how this repeats itself. this chain that we did becomes the first loop in the next puff. So that's really cool that there's a smooth transition from one puff to the other. So once you get your loop out, we're going to go straight into that repeat of 3 times where we yarn over and put a loop, put our hook through and bring it up. So 1, 2, 3. All right, that was easy. We have all the loops for our next puff. Now we're going to start that set of steps to close it again. We keep this separate when we do another yarn over, bring it through, go under that loop we were holding, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and close the puff. And then we chain 1 to keep going. All right, that's the repeat that you continue to do. Those series of little steps that tripped me up at the beginning and that are probably the most difficult part of this to learn, they're all necessary to create this clear space where one puff goes into the other, the top of the other one, and it creates just a nice anchor, because the puffs obviously are just a bunch of longer loops that could easily get messy, but that series of steps right here really keeps them distinct, and like I said, it just creates a nice anchor. So if your puffs do not end up looking like mine are going to start to look, I'm going to keep doing more of them, I would encourage you to watch that set of steps really, really closely and see if you can troubleshoot where you might have gone wrong. Because right here was the hardest part for me to learn when I first learned this. If your puffs do not look like this right away, don't worry about it, keep working at it, and what I found is that when I got each of those little steps right here, that's what really made the puffs come together. Because when I first started to learn this stitch, like I said previously, I was trying to just do some shortcuts and kind of combine some of those little steps, and it really did not work. So this is what you need to do. And you can do as many puffs as you want. You can use this technique on its own in your projects, or you can learn this as the basis for the Jasmine Stitch, which I'm also going to do a tutorial for you for the Jasmine Stitch. But either way, that is how you do the puff stitch.